call this meeting to order. And before we get started, I would just like to make this announcement. This board meeting is being live streamed for the convenience of the public at www.okaloosaschools.com. The public may participate in the public comment portions of the meeting by either personal attendance or by calling the school board meeting public participation phone line. A separate seating area has been set aside for the press and public who are in attendance at the meeting in accordance with social distancing guidelines as provided by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. If calling into the meeting, you should call 850-833-3100. The phone lines will be operational beginning at 6 p.m. on the night of the board meeting, and callers will be transferred into the board meeting during the public comment portion and/or public hearing portion of the meeting only, in the order in which the calls are received. If you are calling into the meeting to make public comment, please be patient as there may be a wait time while being transferred into the meeting. And in accordance with the governor's executive order regarding public meetings, the Honorable Dewey Destin, the Honorable Tim Bryant, myself, Mr. Steve Horton are present at this meeting. And by telephone, the Honorable Ms. Linda Vanchek, the Honorable Dr. Diane Kelly, and the Honorable Dr. Lamar White are participating by phone. So with that being said, we'll move down to approval of the agenda. Item 2.1, changes to the agenda and approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Destin makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Dr. White, I heard you first. So Mr. Destin makes the motion. Dr. White makes a second. Any discussion? Mr. Destin?
I vote yes.
Oh, hold on.
All right.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
I'll vote yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The agenda is approved 5-0. We have no recognitions. We do have 2 blue cards tonight, and I will have them come in the order that I received them. So, Mr. McInnes, would you please explain the rules to public comment, please?
Yes, sir. You'll have 4 minutes to speak to the board tonight, and we'll keep that time for you and give you about a 15-second warning before the time expires.
Okay. So we'll begin with Mr. Tony Rivas. And if you would, please, sir, when you come up to the microphone, please state your name, your address. For the record, please.
Tony Rivas, 1047 Magnolia Drive, Eglin Air Force Base, 32542.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Rivas.
Yes, sir. I'm just going to list off questions that I have. My wife and I have been going over the plan so far for reopening.
Okay.
So one of our concerns is it says health measures will be in place. That's not outlined in any sort of way. So we were wondering what health measures it's going to be. Okay. Another question that we had is, at first we felt rushed because we had to pick by the 15th what we were going to do. Mm-hmm. I know it got moved to the 25th. Is that correct? So yeah, we feel a little rushed about that without there being much more information about what's going on. One of our other concerns is instead of you have to pick and then you have to do that if you do decide to go online, it's a whole semester, so half a year. Why can we not do 1 quarter? So at least.
So let's start with your first question real quick, and Mr. Horton, if you would go back to that one question.
Yes, sir. Hey, Mr. Rivas.
Hi, sir.
So I think when we talk about health measures, Mr. Chambers has put the reopening plan on the district website. Mm-hmm. It talks about things from the time the student gets on the bus until we get into and through the school day. And so they're listed there in terms of the screening that takes place within the beginning of the day, the isolation of students if they present symptoms, the cleaning protocols that happen between students using devices, and then as it relates to large group gatherings. So if you've had a chance to review the whole plan, if you have specific questions in terms of will this occur or will that occur, and you may have done this already, and so what we're doing is trying to respond to parents' specific questions through that reopening at okaloosaschools.com email.
Okay.
We can ask specific questions, but I think there are a number of things that were put in place there that outline kind of how a day would look.
Okay.
And then, there are some pieces in terms of transitioning students in the hallways. It's difficult to say exactly what will happen, but we've tasked each school with identifying traffic patterns of students that minimizes face-to-face contact and keeps kids spaced apart. So some of those answers will lie in the schools in terms of specific implementation. As it relates to your second question, you're right, the deadline was extended, it's actually to the 20th.
Okay.
One of the reasons that it's hard to go beyond that is because the necessity to get the schools staffed and scheduled and so that we're ready to go on the first day of school. It is important to know that there could be parents and families that at any point during the fall or the beginning of school wish to transition to online. And so the movement in that direction to online can occur at any time for families. And then the third thing so far, and I'm sure there are more, there was an initial discussion about students who choose the online, again, for staffing and scheduling purposes, to maintain in that online environment for a semester. But I think the guidance that's out on the website right now does say that we'll contemplate coming back at the 9 weeks. And so that has been addressed, and the superintendent is wanting to have parents have that ability to do that.
Okay.
So Mr. Rivas, in the spirit of you having your 4 minutes to speak, would it be fair for us to get your questions that you have? Obviously, you have quite a few questions, and we can't
Yes.
do it all within 4 minutes.
Yes.
Could we maybe get your questions and hand them off to Mr. Horton? And I know he will be very happy to contact
Yes.
you.
Do you guys want to keep it? Do you want me to make a
You
copy?
can provide it to me, and I will respond back to you individually.
Okay.
However you want to do that.
Okay, I'll make you a copy of the questions. So I have them. Okay. Do I have any more time left?
Time's up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And,
I have a question for Mr.
yes,
Rivas.
Mr. Rivas.
Have you had a chance to review the document that Mr. Horton was referring to? We spent about 2 hours looking at it
When
on
was
Thursday.
the last upload? Because we looked at the website a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
this
It's
is
up there
new.
now. It was
Right.
up there at the end of the day on Friday and actually earlier in the week.
Okay.
And that FAQ document there as well.
Mhm.
And that FAQ document takes parents through before they leave the house, when they get to the bus stop, when they arrive at school, and it has questions that address each level throughout the day.
So it has been updated.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
we'll
Yes,
go
sir.
over that in depth.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
It's 30 or 40 pages long. It's pretty detailed, so when
We-
you go,
we
when
will
you
do
go
it.
through that,
Right.
then please feel free to come back and ask us any additional questions.
Thank you.
Right. And we appreciate you being here tonight. And like I said, out of the spirit of the time frame that we're allowed for public comment, I think a lot of the questions that you have, Mr. Horton can give you very detailed answers tomorrow, and how he sees fit to contact you. So,
Okay. Yes, sir. I'll make you a
All right.
copy of
Yes,
this
sir.
real quick. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Rivas. Okay, so Mr. Dustin Stewart, would you please approach the podium and please state your name and your address for the record, please?
Sure. Thank you and good evening. My name is Dustin Stewart. I live at 1010 Palm Boulevard South here in Niceville. The questions that I have may be more well suited for the high school and the teachers and the curriculum coming from them. However, I did want to address this to y'all to see that maybe if other parents are thinking about it, maybe not thinking about it as far as the online curriculum and some of the availability of certain classes.
Okay.
My child is a senior at Niceville High School, and he wanted to know if he can continue taking the Okaloosa County School District CTE, or Career and Technical Education Certification Programming classes, while they're enrolled in online classes. There's some disparity on the documentation on the website between Okaloosa and Niceville High School that indicate continuing on of those programs in an online at-home fashion. He was worried about that one. And then if he can, is the digital information technology that's listed going to cover cybersecurity 2 and 3, along with web design 3 and JavaScript for programming?
Okay. And
And what I appreciate the question, and I'll have to get with our curriculum department to get the specifics of that. That's not my area of expertise. I do know, and it may not be an option, there is a model in which a student could do online coursework for a majority of the day and then select to come to one class at the high school if it happens to be CTE. And it may not be an option for your family, but that is available. If in fact a particular CTE course and some of those higher level ones that you're referring to, it's more difficult to find an online piece for that. But that's an option that's available to families if they're interested.
Okay.
But specifically, I'll find out about the CT offerings and which ones.
Thank you. Is
And we
that
can-
spelled out in the, when you sign up
I-
and register for the homeschooling version?
Yeah, I don't know that it's course by course. I know that there are course listings on the website
Yes.
right now through Ingenuity, and it's likely that those courses, some of those ones you're mentioning are not, it's not easy to see the crosswalk there. But I've got your name, and I'll get with our curriculum department first thing and respond to you, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you
Yes,
for your
sir,
time.
absolutely.
And Mr. Stewart, we do appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you for your questions, and we do have your card with your information, and if there's any more questions, we will be, Mr. Horton will be happy to reach out to you and help you out with that.
Thank you very much for having me in this meeting.
Yes, sir. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
I think you have one more, Tim.
Yes. Okay, so in about 3 minutes, we do have a public hearing tonight, so at that point, we'll do. And we do have one more blue card. And excuse me if I mess your name up, Karimi? Caramel. Okay. McCoy, would you please come forward and state your name and your address for the record, please?
My name is Caramel McCoy. I live at 229 Diamond Cove in Destin.
Okay.
And the question is about the online program, and I know we have the choices, and I did have a little chance to get through the document, but my issue is this. I don't know where the information is about the teachers and them being able to be part of the online program and how in-depth they're going to be with that, because when they left in the spring, it was a big to do, right? So there was not a lot of teacher cooperation in some of those schools. Some of the classes, some of the teachers were not as tech savvy as others, and it just created an issue. And I wanted to make sure that if I choose that online program, I will have access to some type of teacher program and a lesson that I can actually teach with my kids along with the teacher, because I didn't get textbooks, I didn't get any of that. So is that going to be provided for the online program, textbooks, and having the way that we can, get a grip on being able to teach our children just like the teacher does?
Well, so thank you for the questions. What grade level are we referring to?
So I have a 6th grader and I have an 8th grader.
Okay, so middle school.
Mhm.
So right now, the coursework for the online piece is self-contained on the online site, so it's not a physical textbook that you would receive.
Mhm.
The requirements for teachers are more focused than they were last year in terms of specific amount of time each week and specific times where the student would come online and interact with the teacher on the campus or the middle school teacher. So there are some regularly scheduled times throughout the week where that happens. The other, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, so in that situation, if I decide then I want to take it in my own hands and not use the curriculum that they have, because Edgenuity was not it for my kids. It just didn't work for them. So
ma'am.
if I want to do something different, that's a K-12 that will be able to, can I funnel that back into the next semester when we have them, have a seamless going back into the next semester one, because I do want to bring them back to public school.
At the end of the semester, hopefully?
mhm.
Okay. Well, there are a couple of options. We've got the My School Online piece, which is the Ingenuity platform, with more requirements and more focused pieces to it. There's also Okaloosa Online, which is a true virtual program that has a number of options. So some of those options allow for the student to be sent textbooks home, and you can work through them in that way. Some of those are contained within our district with our own district teachers, some are not. Some are taught by those outside of our district.
Okay.
So I think it'd probably be best if I got you in line with someone in our curriculum department to kind of talk through those 3 options for you so that you can make the most informed choice.
I wanted to make sure I knew what those options were. So
Yes,
thank you
ma'am.
very much.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right.
And you've got your name, and so I'll have someone
Yes,
reach
sir.
out to you.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Ms. McCoy. Okay, so it is 6:15, and we do have two public hearings tonight. So we are going to go straight down to 17.1, and we have a public hearing for the adoption of the Elementary and Secondary Code of Student Conduct for the 2020-2021 school year. I need a motion to approve.
Any
Public hearing first.
Public hearing.
Is there any public comment?
Thank you for the, yes, do we have anybody out in the public that would like to comment on this? And we do have a short delay because there is a 30-second delay with the live feed.
Well, did we get any input on it?
We can hardly call it live anymore if it's got 3
I
seconds
know.
delay.
Okay. Seeing that we have nobody here to speak about that, now I need a motion to approve.
And I will move.
I'll
to
make the
approve.
motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, Dr. Kelly makes the motion to approve. Mr. Destin, second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, and the motion carries 5-0. So we're down to 17.2, public hearing for the adoption of new school board policy 01-28, religious expression. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of item 17.2? Okay. Hearing none, I need a motion to approve.
Move we approve, Chairman.
Mr. Destin makes a motion to adopt. I need a second, please.
I'll second it.
Okay, Dr. Kelly, I heard you, so Mr. Destin makes the motion to adopt. Dr. Kelly seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, and the motion carries 5-0. So now we're still back up to item 6.1, and I believe we do have a phone-in question or comment. Okay.
This is the Okaloosa School Board public comment line. Please state your name and address for the record. You are speaking to the board.
Hi, my name is Ann Hensey. My address is 210 Florida Street, Niceville.
Good evening, Ms. Hensey. Just so you know, there is a 4-minute time that you have to make your statements.
Okay. Am I good to go?
Yes, ma'am, you're good to go.
Okay, so I have a two-part question. My question pertains to the current 7-day trend of positivity in Okaloosa County being 12.5% as of today, and whether the district is considering delaying the start of the school year to later in the month because of this.
Do you want to answer that one, Mr. Horton?
So I can reply to that, and that is that today there were no discussions about looking to delay the beginning of the school year. However, I think as the superintendent has said, the way things look 3 weeks ago are different than the way they look now, which are different than the way they're going to look 2 weeks from now. So I would say that as of today, I have not had any conversations about that, ma'am. But that is not to say that's not something that could be discussed in the future.
Right. And,
Okay, and my second question, and this is one that I asked directly through Dr. Kelly at the workshop and did not receive a direct answer to. With the number of cases increasing, what specifically has Dr. Chapman advised as it pertains to safely opening in-person schooling?
I have not had a direct conversation with Dr. Chapman, ma'am, so I'd have to get the information and reply back to you with that.
Okay, so that is an answer that I would really like to have an answer to, or a question I would like to have an answer to. I've asked that question multiple times. I've emailed every board member. I've emailed Mr. Chambers. I've had that question asked for me by Dr. Kelly and have not received a direct answer to this question. So I specifically, as a parent who has 3 children, would like to know, what is Dr. Chapman advising as far as in-person schooling?
Yes, ma'am. And have you had a chance to reach out to Dr. Chapman?
I have. I have not received a response yet. I understand she's quite busy right now.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I can understand that certainly, but I've got your name, and I'll make sure that you get a response.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Chairman,
ma'am.
if I may ask, or Mr. Horton, we have a meeting between now and when school
She's
takes
still
in?
on. She's still on.
With,
A school board meeting? We
Yes,
have
sir.
one?
Yes, sir.
The 27th, I think.
Right, I would think that that would be the opportune time to invite Dr. Chapman to come and say a few words for us, like she did before.
Sir.
And before the meeting is over, I'll make a motion to invite her to come speak to us more and more time before school terminates. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
That would make me very happy to be able to hear from her directly.
And it also would make me happy and more confident anyway, hopefully.
Well,
Right. I have watched her at the county commission meetings as well, and if she is as adamant at those meetings as if she would be that adamant about school as she is about the county and how our numbers are out of control, I want to hear that directly from her.
I'm sure she'll have an opinion, but, and as you're aware, we're under a pretty direct mandate from the state to
Right.
open schools up or risk losing funding, which is kind of is an interesting concept that if you don't open, we're gonna take your money away, so you can't open. I love that a lot.
No, I definitely understand that, but that mandate does say that schools are open for in-person at the approval of the local Department of Health.
Well, we'll
So
certainly
that's
talk
why I
about
want to hear from her directly about schools opening. Thank you.
all right, thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too.
All right.
Is clear?
Okay.
I have no other callers.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. So now we'll move down to Section 7, which is committee and staff reports. That was workshop only, and now we're down to Section 8, consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Chairman.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
move.
Who said that? Miss-
Evancheck.
Okay, so Ms. Evancheck, I'm going to give you the second. Mr. Destin made the motion. So with that being said, is there
Okay.
any discussion with the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes, and the agenda passes 5-0. So now we'll scroll down to Section 9, Superintendent's Human Resource Recommendations. The first two items are informational only, so we'll move down to 9.3, cleared certification requirements and issuance of contracts for the 2020-21 school year. I need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Second, please.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Evancheck. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. 9.4, employment separations. I need a motion to approve.
I'll move it. I'll move.
Thank you, Ms. Evancheck. I need a second, please.
I'll second.
And Dr. Kelly makes a second. Any discussion regarding 9.4? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, and the motion carries 5-0. 9.5, personnel recommendations. I need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Dr. Kelly makes the motion. A second, please.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Evancheck. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, and the motion carries 5-0. 9.6, employee transfers. A motion to approve, please.
I move we approve.
Thank you, Mr. Destin. A second, please.
I'll second.
Second, Dr. Kelly. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, and the motion carries 5-0. 9.7, reinstatement and reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty illness, injury, medical examination. I need a motion to approve, please.
I'll move we approve.
Thank you, Mr. Destin. Second, please.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Vancheck. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Vancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. 9.8, leave without pay. I need a motion to approve, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. A second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ms. Vancheck. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Vancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. So now we are to section 10. There was nothing moved from any items that were moved to the consent agenda. So now we are at 11, construction program owners representatives business. 11.1, program status report. And Mr. Destin, I understand you have a report for us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. I think we made this available to the board members, and we have a lot of things that we've been working on that we're making good progress on. The district-wide school security upgrade, Floros Elementary, that's done and being well received. Baker School renovations, we're proceeding forward with that, and of course, until we tear things apart, we never know, but we think we've anticipated what it will cost, and we're going to move forward. We've got a few more efforts at the stadium at Choctaw. Prior Middle School's kitchen renovation is still under consideration. We are going to move forward. That is just as soon as we are able. We are working at Longwood on some security structures and moving forward with that. Kenwood is going to get some roof replacements. And our new project, of course, is to try to do some repairs at the Crestview High School Stadium, Jack Foster Stadium. And we have done the same thing we did when we went forward with Choctaw. We are asking to approve a materials and task order not to exceed $200,000, so we can go ahead and do some quick repairs, and then we will come back with a engineered report, construction drawings, and essentially what it will cost to put it back in good shape. It is my understanding that it will still be available for graduation and that the engineers have signed off on that. So we will still be able to use it, but we will proceed in a timely fashion to fix the problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Destin. So I'll go down the line. Ms. Vancheck, any questions for Mr. Destin?
No, just appreciate this coverage. A lot of great things happening, and appreciate Mr. Destin working with that and his committee, and then of course all the individuals who are working on getting these schools in the best order that we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Vancheck. Dr. Kelly?
Just to say that due to the fact that we are now looking at our stadiums every year instead of every 2 years, and the fact that now we are really getting into them with almost a cherry picker-like contraption to look more deeply inside, it does give us an opportunity to see perhaps more deeply the flaws that have been there for years but that are now being able to be taken care of in a much more appropriate manner more quickly. So I'm very grateful to our staff for being able to do that. I think it's a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. And Dr. White, any comments or questions?
Well, only that certainly appreciate the proactive efforts by our staff and by Mr. Destin to rectify this, and something that could have, as we all know, could have been very, very serious. So good work to all, and thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. White. And so now we'll move down to item 11.2, and we will be voting on this. So program number 6, task order number 9, time and materials task order, emergency remedial efforts, both design and construction for repairs to Jack Foster Stadium at Crestview High School. I need a motion to approve.
I'll move that we approve, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Destin. I need a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. White. Any other discussion regarding 11.2? Okay, thank you. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Ms. Savanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. So Section 12, we have nothing, and we're now to attorney's business. Mr. McGinnis.
One item, Mr. Chairman, I need to request that you schedule an attorney-client session during a special board meeting to discuss pending litigation in the district. The particular case is case number 2017 CA 0043006F, and we would request this meeting be scheduled for Thursday morning, July the 23rd at 8:15 a.m.
Okay. And we do need a motion for that, correct?
No, sir.
No motion? Okay. All right. Board members, you should have been already reached out to. Are we good with this? Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. McGinnis?
No, sir, that's all.
Okay. And Mr. Horton, you're up.
I dare not. I'll pass. Thank you, Mr. Bryant.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Horton. Okay, so now we're at board members' announcements or requests for information, and I'll start with Mr. Destin tonight.
Thank you, Chairman. I will simply make the motion I mentioned earlier, inviting Dr. Chapman to come and give us an update on the COVID-19 situation and any other recommendations she may have for us.
Okay. So Mr. Destin has made a motion to request Dr. Chapman come to our next, was it workshop or board meeting?
Maybe which is convenient for her based on the
Yeah,
schedule.
we can give her the option of those two
Okay.
dates to see
All
which
right.
one she can do
All right. And so obviously you'll amend that to be either or then. right?
at her next opportunity.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a motion. Do I have a second to approve Mr. Destin's motion?
I'll second it.
Well,
Okay, I heard Ms. Savanchek, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
well, only Mr. Bryant, and I know that Mr. Destin and Mr. McInnes and different folks will clarify the motion. I think it would be extend an invitation to Dr. Chapman. Is that correct? Is that how I understand
That
the
is
motion?
correct. It's an invitation if she can.
That's right, that's the intent.
Right. So she might not be able to make
Okay,
it.
right.
Right.
So then, yes, I understand, and thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for clarifying that. So, okay. And so, Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Ms. Savanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That motion carries 5-0. Mr. Destin, anything else?
I think that does it, Chairman.
Thank you. And we'll start with Dr. White on the phone. Anything you would like to ask or address tonight?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Bryant.
Thank you, Dr. White. And Dr. Kelly.
Oh, I would just like to say, first of all, thank you to our community donors for continuing to support our schools with your financial contributions. And secondly, thank you to Mr. Horton for forwarding on the survey comments that I requested at our workshop. I appreciate that. It does help me to see what the specific concerns of our community members are with regard to that survey. So thank you for that. And congratulations to all of our seniors as they participate in graduation ceremonies across our district this week. I know those were hard-earned certificates, particularly in the age of COVID. And I'll just make one final comment, if I might, just to the fact about masks. I know this is such a controversial topic, but I know that we're kind of quibbling over words like recommended, requested, required, mandatory. And I just spoke with one of our neighboring districts about other topics, but this came up, of course, in the conversation. And one thing that they're doing is that they're certainly providing the disposable mask like we are when they are needed, but they are asking their students to bring their own mask and to keep it on their person at all times, and to allow the classroom teacher to control the use of those masks so that if the student if the teacher is comfortable speaking from an appropriate distance at the front of the room, and only those students who desire to wear their mask wear them, that's up to the teacher. But if the teacher wishes for everyone in her room or his room to wear masks, and that's the way that teacher feels more confident teaching, then they all wear the mask. So in other words, the control in the classroom is left up to the teacher, and then of course it's required in crowded common areas where social distancing isn't possible, like hallways, buses, etc. But just something else to consider. I know sometimes we get our best ideas when we operate in a think tank fashion with our other districts. So I just thought I would throw that out just for something to consider, or maybe to start a conversation with as the superintendent and his staff continue to determine that reopening plan. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. And Ms. Savanchek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first I want to speak to the graduations, and hard to say that we're at graduation week when it's July 13th, but we are here, and I want to wish all the schools well in their graduation ceremonies. We all want this to work out positive because these students have earned it, these teachers, everyone who's worked so hard to get students to this point, the parents and so forth. So I'm wishing good things this week as we start graduations, I believe, starting tomorrow and going through next Saturday. The other thing I want to say to the public is that as a board member, I appreciate that we live in a community where our parents and citizens are concerned about our school district and what we're doing. And it's evidence from the emails, the texts, the phone calls that I get, and I'm sure other board members get too, about things going on. It's a difficult time. We're all trying to do the best we can. We all have the same goal, which is to make it the best situation for our students and our employees. So we're all working that goal, but I appreciate so many reaching out to me as a board member. And then the other thing that I mentioned at the workshop, just think this is important to recognize this individual, and that is Lieutenant Venuti with the Okaloosa Sheriff's Office, who's been in charge of our SRO program for many years, and he is now receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award for his service. And I appreciate what he's done, and he's made quite an indelible mark on our school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Savanchek. And my closing comments will be, Mr. Mitchell, I see you're out here tonight, and thank you for all that you and your team are doing to try to make our phone conference a little bit easier. We did have some difficulties on Thursday, but tonight went flawless, and we actually had our first call-in since we started the call-in procedure. So everything seemed to work out great tonight. I believe board members, it sounded like you could hear a lot better. Everything seemed to go smoother.
Yes, it was much better.
Yes. So, Mr. Mitchell, thank you to you and your team. So now we'll move down to section 16 and public comment. And this is public comment, members of the public desiring to address the school board. This is a 2-minute opportunity to speak before the school board. And Mr. Mitchell, do we have anybody? I'll get to you in just a second. Mr. Mitchell, do we have anybody that's waiting?
Not waiting. It takes about 20 seconds.
Yes.
For what you say to send me another
Yes.
slide.
Yep.
So I'm in the queue right now.
Okay. Okay, and we do have, you are free to come up, and again, state your name and your address for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Caramel McCoy, 229 Diamond Cove Way. So I'm back again because I wanted to make sure that we're clear, because I've been scouring the website, and Mr. Horton, or is it Mr. Horton?
Mr. Horton.
Mr. Horton, because I see Cham like, that's not Mr. Chambers. Okay, so My School Online, it says it is the Accelerate for K through 5, and it also is 6 through 12 is Edgenuity. So I think what you were trying to tell me is that My School Online was what the curriculum is going to be, along with the children having more access with the teachers because of what's going on with Edgenuity. Is that right?
That is correct.
So the curriculum is just Edgenuity.
Yes, ma'am. However, there is also an entity in our district referred to as Okaloosa Online that has been in place for years. And it's been the vehicle by which students before COVID could go and do virtual education.
Okay.
And so Okaloosa Online, and it's in our FAQ document, it's also on the plan posted online, you would actually withdraw from your school and enroll in Okaloosa Online, and you can take courses there, and there are some different options in Okaloosa Online other than just Edgenuity.
Is that going to be allowable to do that this semester and then come back the second
You
semester?
absolutely could, yes, ma'am.
And can they participate in the school activities in that?
Yeah, you still can participate in your sports and athletic activities and things like that when you are an Okaloosa Online student, and you could do that at the school that you're zoned to attend.
Awesome. That's what I
So
need to
you would
know.
want to look at that as well to see if that curriculum is better suited.
And
for you.
I'll reach out to the curriculum. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Ms. McCoy. All right, so Rita, you have anything? Lee, anything? All right, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you, board members on the phone.
Thank you.